Welcome to Reason to Talk with Chris Reason. Today's episode, I'm talking about two serial killers, Robert Sylvester Alston and Tony Ray Amati. Before we get into today's episode, here is Jeff Scott Soto with a message.
This is Jeff Scott Soto, and you are watching and listening to the Chris Reason Network here on YouTube. Turn it up, keep it on, and rock on.
This is A Reason to Talk with Chris Reason. Robert Sylvester Alston, born May 19, 1969, is an American serial killer who raped and murdered at least 4 women in Greensboro, North Carolina from 1991 to 1993, whose bodies he then dismembered and buried in various locations. He made anonymous phone calls to investigators about the crimes to an attempt to confuse them and gain media attention. That just sounds like you're trying to fucking turn yourself in, but make it hilarious. He pleaded guilty to all charges in 1998 and received multiple life terms. Robert Sylvester Alston was born on May 19, 1969 in Greensboro, North Carolina, the son of school custodian Jack and factory worker Dorothy Alston. He was one of 2 children born to a poor but otherwise stable and respected family. Alston attended the local Grimsley High School, where he developed a reputation as a social outcast due to his introverted nature, having trouble interacting with his peers and having no close friends. Although he was tall and reasonably athletic, he did not participate in an extracurricular or social activities aside from the Reserve Officers Training Corps, which he barely paid attention to. After his graduation in 1987, Alston went to a junior college in Georgia, but quickly, holy shit, I just lost my spot. But quickly lost interest in the educational process and dropped out after the first semester. Sorry about that. During this period, he developed an intimate relationship with a woman, and in 1989, she gave birth to a son. Alston and his girlfriend then moved to Wilmington, Delaware, where they had a second child born in 1991. Shortly after the birth of his second son, Alston got into a conflict with his partner and abandoned his family, returning to his parents' home in Greensboro, where he stuck with doing low-skilled labor over the next several years. He changed a number of professions and at the time of his arrest in 1994 worked as a dishwasher at the Rockola Cafe on Battleground Avenue. He refused deep emotional connections to everyone, including his own parents, and spent most of his time in his room and walking around the neighborhood. After his arrest, his father told reporters that there was little to no emotional intimacy or trust between them. As victims, Alston chose young black women who were either prostitutes or drug addicts, all of whom he picked up in his dark blue Pontiac. His first confirmed murder occurred in April 1991 when he strangled 23-year-old Joanne Robinson, a prostitute addicted to crack cocaine. Her naked body was found several blocks from his home. Alston committed his second murder in October of that year, strangling 26-year-old Sharon Martin. According to investigators, he dismembered her corpse post-mortem and then scattered the remains in various areas of Greensboro. By late November, utility workers found her severed head and one of her hands in a wooded area on a street near the Jackson Middle School. The third murder occurred sometime during the spring of 1992 when the naked and decapitated body of 19-year-old Shamika Warren was discovered by police officers at a vacant lot near Alston's home. Warren, a prostitute suffering from drug addiction, had been reported missing by her relatives in May. Alston's last confirmed murder took place sometime in early to mid-December 1993 when he raped and strangled 41-year-old Lois Elizabeth Williams. After killing her, Alston dumped her body in the city's Piedmont National Cemetery, where it was found on December 14th. Like all the previous victims, Williams began to use crack cocaine and engage in prostitution. After losing her job as a manager for the News and Record, while interviewing witnesses, investigators learned that she had last been seen in the company of a black male who appeared to be approximately 6 feet tall and about 185 pounds. Both Williams and Warren's bodies were later recovered after an anonymous caller submitted tips to the police. In early January 1994, Alston met a 29-year-old woman in Guilford County, who was trying to hitchhike home to Greensboro. He offered her to ride, but then when she got in the car, he drove... Jesus Christ. to a forested area near the James B. Dudley High School, I'm cut off, where he proceeded to assault, beat, rape, and attempt to strangle her. After the victim lost consciousness, Alston threw her off a bridge into the waters of a nearby river, but the victim miraculously survived despite her injuries. She was quickly found and driven to a hospital where she managed to recover. She later told police officers what had happened and offered a description on the basis of which a facial composite was devised. At the police station, the victim was presented with photographs of previously convicted black men, choosing one that she thought resembled her attacker, that of Robert Alston. That although he had never been arrested up until that point, he was questioned on multiple occasions and considered a suspect due to the fact that most of the victims were found near his house. Alston was finally arrested on January 28, 1994, and was thereafter positively identified as the assailant of the hitchhiker. Shortly after this, he unexpectedly confessed to investigators that he had murdered Lois Williams. On April 18th, based on his confession, Alston was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for the Williams murder. He remained unsuspect in the other crimes, but denied any involvement until 1996, when he contacted the Guilford County Prosecutor's Office and confessed to killing Joanne Robinson. Alston was then charged, convicted, and given another life term for murder on August 19, 1996. In late 1997, Alston contacted the prosecutor's office yet again, this time claiming responsibility for the murders of Sharon Martin and Shamika Ward. Although investigators were unable to uncover any evidence directly linking him to these two cases, he was nonetheless indicted for both in January 1998. During interrogations, Alston refused to reveal his true motives or point out where he had buried the women's remains, which were eventually recovered thanks to tips submitted by an anonymous caller. Investigators believe that Alston himself was the caller, but he claimed that it was not him. I was going to say that wouldn't make sense. Who else would fucking know? Let's see. On September 3rd, 1998, Alston pleaded guilty to all charges, after which he received 2 life sentences without parole. During the sentencing phase, he smiled while describing his crimes in sarcastic detail and showed no signs of remorse. At one point, this is a sick motherfucker, he was asked by the judge and Warren's mother to reveal the location of her remains, but he turned this request down, stating the following: "I've had my time to search my soul. What I did was wrong, and I've made peace with God. Only me and God will have those answers." If you fucking... whatever. Search your souls and found peace, you should fucking tell him. After his conviction, Alston was identified as the prime suspect in the murders of 2 other women who had been murdered and raped in Greensboro between 1991 and 1993, namely Burnless Denise Robinson and Cheryl Lynn Mason, but was never charged in either killing, both of which remain unsolved. Since his conviction, Alston has remained behind bars, being frequently transferred around various penitentiaries across the states. In the mid-2010s, he was visited twice by different journalists. In one interview, he stated that he was responsible for more than 4 murders, but was unwilling to cooperate with the Guilford County prosecutors. In 2016, he was interviewed by Nancy McLaughlin, a journalist for the News and Record. In that interview, he said the following: "I won't feed anyone's fascination with my crimes, that trigger, that one thing that pushed me over the edge. I'll die with that. I don't see myself as a serial killer, but people do." Okay, killed a shit ton of people. "Society is so quick to put monikers on people's name tags. Robert Alston, that's who I am." In 2002, the Greensboro Medical Examiner's Office was ordered to pay $50,000 in fines to the family of Sharon Martin after her remains were lost. The chief examiner, John Butts, hilarious, later released a statement apologizing for the mix-up. As of January 2023, so last year, January, Alston is still alive and is currently serving his sentence at the Columbus Correctional Institution of Brunswick. So, the guy's still alive. I don't know if there's a death penalty possible in that area of the country, of the United States, but he is servicing 2 life sentences without parole, which makes a lot of fucking sense. The fact that they only had fines of $50,000 for that person's remains, fucking stupid. A life is worth more than that. They need to find something else and figure out what else to do. That $50,000 would probably just cover the funeral and maybe a little bit more. But other than that, it still doesn't make sense to me. You need to do something more. That's just not a personal opinion on what somebody's life matters to a family member or anything else like that. Now let's switch gears to Tony Ray Amati. Anthony Tony Ray Amati, born June 28, 1976, known as a thrill killer, is an American serial killer who shot and killed 3 people in Las Vegas, Nevada from May to August 1996. The FBI was brought in to find Amati's whereabouts and added him to the FBI's 10 most wanted list on February 27, 1998. He was arrested 2 days later, was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 40 years served in 1999. Amati was born in Carbondale, Illinois. He and his family moved to Las Vegas in 1992. He graduated from Clark High School with honors in 1994. Amati was still in high school when he got a job as a telemarketer. During his murder trial, a doctor said he was highly intelligent, able to discern right from wrong, wow, I can't read, and exhibited many of the traits of obsessive-compulsive disorder. He has the personality characteristics that you would see in a good accountant, the doctor testified. Before the initial spree, Amati, along with 2 accomplices, 27-year-old Troy Sampson and 23-year-old Edward James, robbed a gun store of $30,000 in southern Las Vegas, as well as stealing 75 firearms. Their crime spree began on May 27, 1996, when Amati, Sampson, and James fired over 20 rounds into 27-year-old Michael Mata in a parking lot in southern Las Vegas, ultimately killing him. Mata was homeless and was reportedly rummaging through bags of trash when killed. In July, 2 blocks away from where Mata was gunned down, the trio shot 48-year-old John Garcia to death in his garage near Tropicana Avenue. 4 weeks later, in August 1996, the trio fatally shot 22-year-old Keith Dyer just outside a friend's home, killing him. Stacy Dooley, a friend of Dyer and a witness to the shooting, was shot in the leg. During Amati's trial, she started sobbing as she recounted how 3 masked gunmen were laughing like it was a big joke and jumped around as they shot Dyer 13 times. Dyer's mother died on September 22, 1999. Her husband later said she couldn't deal with the death of her son and had been extremely dedicated to pursuing his killers. At the scene, Amati cut his hand, leaving blood that police eventually collected and used to implicate him. In October 1996, Amati, Sampson, and James sold stolen guns to a dealer. Unknown to them, the buyer was an undercover policeman, and both Sampson and James were apprehended, while Amati remained at large. Their trailer was subsequently seized and searched by investigators who uncovered the stolen weapons, which were eventually matched to the guns used to kill all 3 victims. Since Amati couldn't be located, his 2 accomplices remained in police custody until he was found. I suppose they didn't try him separately, if you could do that. February 27, 1998, Amati was officially added as number 452 on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. That doesn't make sense. FBI's 10 most wanted, he's number 450, whatever. That's more than 10. And they subsequently took over the case. It was found that in the 2 years Amati was a fugitive, he went under multiple pseudonyms, including Anthony Ray Jones, Philip D. Gitlitz, Devon Recidivido, I can't pronounce that, and Shane William Wade. The FBI found that he was arrested multiple times in Utah, but managed to convince police that he was a different person each time. While Amati was at large, he was featured in an episode of the popular television program America's Most Wanted, in which investigators involved in the extensive manhunt for Amati said that he was most likely armed and dangerous. The suspected Amati might be in southern Illinois because of a family that was known to have lived there. Initially, after over 50 tips from that area, the theory ran dry. Days after the episode was broadcasted, detectives received a tip from Georgia, and FBI agents were dispatched there to find him. On March 1st, agents stormed Amati's hotel room in Atlanta and arrested him without incident. Amati's father, Charlie Amati, pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of obstructing a peace officer for giving an officer a fraudulent license with a photo of Tony. He was sentenced to 12 months of conditional discharge and fined $200. 1996, Sampson pleaded guilty to possession of stolen property and being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm and was sentenced to 20 to 50 months, this wasn't due by years, in prison. Amati, Sampson, and James were all charged with the murders, but because of evidence being withheld by the judge, Sampson and James' charges were dropped by the district attorney, but Amati's remained. In 1999, he stood trial denying his guilt, claiming the murders were primarily committed by Sampson and James, and that he has himself never pulled the trigger. Sampson was released from prison in August 1999. Why? On November 14, 2000, he robbed and burned down a Las Vegas convenience store. He cut the telephone lines to the store in an attempt to disable the alarm system, cut a hole in the roof to get inside, and cut the power lines to the store. Security cameras. However, Sampson missed one camera which filmed him breaking into video poker machines, trying to drill open an ATM and pouring lighter fluid around the store and lighting it on fire. Sampson faced a federal arson charge since the store was involved in interstate commerce. In 2002, he pleaded guilty to arson and was sentenced to 150 months in prison. Sampson was released from prison on December 11th, 2012. Stop releasing these people from prison. Come on. During the trial, Amati claimed he only participated in the string of killings out of fear of Sampson and only went on the run since he thought no one would believe him even if he turned himself in. Amati was acquitted of killing Mata and Garcia but found guilty of killing Dyer. During his sentencing hearing, he said, "I'm so sorry for this had to happen," and begged the jury for mercy. Amati's lawyers had argued that his age warranted leniency and said it would be unfair for him to be executed when his co-defendants were walking free. That makes sense. The jury ultimately spared his life and recommended life in prison with the possibility of parole. Why? Fucking stop trying to give people parole, especially when it's murder. Oh, God, fucking stupid. Although the sentence was the absolute best case scenario for Amati, Bruce Dyer said he was satisfied. "To me, it would be a living hell to be in jail for 40 years, he said. Whatever. Just put life imprisonment for fuck's sake. Jurors said that while they believed Amati shot Dyer, they decided to spare his life due to the lack of other violent incidents in his life before and after the murders. Amati is servicing his sentence at Lovelock Correctional Center and will become eligible for parole in 2038 when he is 62. Fucking, I can't wait for that. That's in 14 years. I'll be about fucking 44, and I want to see this fucker try to get parole. Anyways, thank you for joining me in today's episode of Reason to Talk with Chris Reason. Hit that follow button on all major podcast platforms, and on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, and select all so you can stay up to date on all content that is uploaded. Peace and bacon grease, guys.